A perfect game of chess will end in a draw. Hey there, welcome to Stanley Chess. I'm Stanley, this is Jasper, and today we're going to be going through one of my chess games. I'm about 1800 ELO on chess.com, and I played a game that, spoilers, ends in a draw, and it was definitely not perfect, but we're going to pretend that it was. Now, before we get into the game analysis itself, shout out to Matt0997 for participating in the comments for the last video's daily puzzle. I solved this made in 3 here. We have it pulled up. And now, this is a very nice one. I quite enjoy it. We have knight d6 check. The pawn is pinned, so you can't take, and the king has to run. If the king runs this way, well, that's just going to be mate in 1, so that's no good. So the king runs to g6, then you play queen f5, check, defended by the knight. The king has to run over to h6, and then fitting, where the king originally stood, the knight delivers the checkmate on f7. This was very nice. I enjoyed it, so shout out Matt once again. And for the rest of you who are watching this video, here's today's daily puzzle. Solve it, pause it, whatever you need to do. Participate down in the comments and I'll give you a shout out in the next video. All right, let's hop into the game itself here. So I'm playing with the black pieces, currently around 1825. I'm hoping to climb my way up. I have never reached 1900, but I want to. I want to very soon. This is the year. This is the year. I play the Caro Khan here, the e4 c6, and here we go. We're going to go into a Tartakower variation with, you know, the knight taking the pawn, and then the knight's going to take here. And this is the Tartakower Caro Khan structure where the pawn takes on f6, and you often get like a pawn cube in certain lines where, you know, if a knight or a bishop ends up here and gets taken, you recapture like this and you get a very nice pawn cube, but that doesn't happen in this game, sadly. We have bishop developing here. I just develop as well. Castle, castle, and this is all normal stuff, whatever. And c3. And around here, we're kind of out of theory. I believe here there were a few games in the database, but c3 takes us out. Usually, the games that have been played have gone h3, f3, or queen d3, getting out of the pin that way. But instead, opponent decides to play c3. Not a bad move at all. You know, developing this pawn chain here. And I play queen c7, attacking the h2 pawn, so defends and attacks my bishop at the same time. I have to retreat. I want to keep the pin on the knight, so he gets out of the pin. Now, naturally, I have an open file here. I have a rook ready to participate on that open file. So we have rook going to e8, and the bishop comes out to e3, blocking my rook's vision of the knight here. So I just continue my development, looking to bring my knight maybe to b6 to d5, maybe to, you know, f8 is a very common maneuvering idea in the Tartakower, and then you would play like knight to e6 or knight to g6 possibly in certain, you know, certain positions, but the rook goes out this way. This is a little bit strange, just a little bit. You know, in my head, you might want to bring the rook this way and try to play for some d5 in the future. Or maybe, you know, bring the rook out this way to the open file to, you know, compete for that. But instead, you know, the rook A going to e1, not a bad move. So I drop my bishop back and hit the queen. And this is very interesting because the queen could go to like b3 here, but then you have b5. And then the bishop's trapped, right? Because you can't take it, you have nothing defending it there. So that was my idea with playing bishop back to g6 to hit the queen, was that it can't really move this way because I'm just going to play b5, kick the bishop away. So instead, the queen either has to like stick to, you know, this square here to, you know, defend against that, or leave the b3 square open so that the bishop could retreat that way. Now, I don't play b5. Computer says I could have here gone for b5 and been a little bit aggressive, go for a5 even, you know, this crazy stuff. I mean, I would normally be worried about maybe like some pushback with this, but apparently you're fine. You can just do this, leave yourself with an isolated pawn on c6 and just play like knight b6, kicking the bishop back again, and then you get a4 and you get this counterplay, right? You just start roaring down the queen side. Now, I didn't go for that. Instead, I go for just bringing my rook to the center here, you know, playing off of some basic principles. Rooks like to be in the center, so I put him in the center. Look at me, being a good chess boy. So the knight jumps out, activating to f4, kind of, you know, eyeing my bishop here. Now, I expect him to take. right? Because why else would you be jumping the knight into f4? I don't want to take, right? Because then I get hit with this bishop f4, and I've got to move my queen. I don't really have that many good squares. I could maybe try going to b6, but then, my queen's not doing anything here, and it's not participating in the game. It's kind of locked out. White is just going to double rooks here, and I'm not going to be able to do much about it. So I would have to play like queen c8, but that's just so passive. So generally, you don't want to let your opponent get that activity with a tempo here, recapturing. So, some people may say to take is a mistake. Shout out to Remote Chess Academy for that one. And so instead I decide, okay, we have this idea that I brought up before, knight going back to f8 to, lend some support to my bishop. So I have options whether to take back with the pawn or the knight. Keep myself flexible that way. And I also open up my rook here so that maybe there's some ideas with the pawn being pinned to the queen if I ever move my dark squared bishop. He drops the knight back to d3, which is a bit strange, right? Because why wouldn't you just take the bishop? I mean, you moved the knight to f4, you might as well take the bishop. It's a very good piece, right? Staring into the position here. So you would think that you want to be the only one with the light squared bishop. You would take, I might take with the pawn or the knight. I brought the knight to f8 with the idea of taking this way. Either is fine. You can take either way. Here you get a pawn cube. It's very fun. And you might get something like queen c2, setting up maybe some queen b3 ideas, maybe some bishop, here to d3. And, white is doing quite well here. I mean, black is pretty passive. But, the rooks are well placed and the dark squared bishop is nice. But anyway, instead the knight drops back to d3. And I'm like, okay, interesting. Let's play b6 because I don't want the knight jumping into c5. And now bishop f4. Okay, now we've got some interesting stuff going on because pieces are staring at each other every which way. And there's like kind of a pin going on along the d file. So a lot to take into consideration here. Now I could take and then like knight takes or queen takes, right? Takes. But then I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. Because then what? Maybe takes. And then, knight takes, and I don't want to give up, my dark squared bishop that way. So I took this way. I take the knight on d3. Now, why do I do this? Well, I saw here, queen takes, and then like bishop or queen takes. I figured I was fine, right? I'm going to bring my knight into the game somehow, and it's probably just equal. So we have that. We have all these trades, and it's equal, right? Computer says it's 0.0. So I developed my knight, redevelop my knight. It traveled all the way from b8 to f8, and now it's going to g6. And the pawn launches to f4. My opponent getting aggressive. Now, this is a pretty equal position, and it calls for a bit of a slower maneuvering approach. Maybe playing rook takes e8, and then maybe even just trading off all the rooks. Or, possibly queen here, or, a4, maybe take some space that way. But f4... I mean, you're leaving yourself with a lot of dark squared weaknesses over here. And also, there's no attack, right? Like, there's no pawn breaks that you're going to be using with the f-pawn. And are you really going to be playing this and this? I mean, my king is pretty safe here. And you're just going to weaken yourself to, possible ideas of myself getting in, right? And so that move struck me as strange. I also saw that I can win a pawn. I don't actually, if white responds the best. But let's see here. What I did, right, I take the rook, right, and then I take the pawn. Now, this isn't an accuracy according to the computer. Now, I win a pawn, I'm going to play it. Because I saw rook takes. If this rook takes, well, then, I'm just going to take the pawn. And then, queen takes, knight takes, I hit the bishop, and I'm doing fine. I'm up a pawn. And what happened in the game, rook takes, queen takes, and I've got 2 attackers on the pawn, so I win it, right? Not the case. Now, it would have been better here, instead of taking the pawn on f4, to play c5 and go for like bishop takes. You get the pawn cube, the prophecy is fulfilled, and you get to give the check on the dark square diagonal. Remember those weaknesses I pointed out earlier? And, the queen could try and block. You could, go for something like this. I mean, the position's just equal. I mean, material is equal, and you're just gonna, probably make a draw with endless checks, queen maneuvering. It's gonna be pretty boring. Someone's gonna make a mistake and lose, but, it is what it is. Instead, though, after I take, black should have gone for bishop takes h7, which neither of us saw. He played his move in like 10 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, but this, yeah, I didn't see that. You win back the pawn because of queen h4 check, and you pick up the knight this way. And then if you go for this, well, I mean, again, it's just going to be pretty equal. If anything, white is better because white has, a bit of a better pawn structure. I got my doubled pawns here, and, white might be pushing to make a passed pawn over this way, but it's probably just a draw with best play. But I'm, 1800, he's 1700. We're not going to be playing best play. So, it's anybody's game here. But instead of that, my opponent didn't see it. He said, "Oh, Narts, I lost a pawn. That's whatever, I'm gonna drop my bishop back." Meh. And now I'm just better, because now I'm just up a clean pawn. I should go knight d5, keep my knight centralized. I didn't like this, but apparently it's better for me because I can just play knight b4, hit the bishop, and then, the pawn is hanging, so I actually win more material this way, and I'm up 2 pawns and probably winning. I didn't see that. Instead, I just dropped back to g6 saying, I'm up a pawn. Cool. And so queen goes here, getting pretty active. I can't really move my knight now because of the h7 pawns, so I offer queen trade, naturally, and now I undouble my pawns. Look at me go. I'm a genius. The bishop attacks. Okay, I defend. I figured the rook was going to go here. I might drop my knight back to f8 to defend the pawn and eventually, find a way to untangle. But instead, my opponent saw there was a pin on the diagonal and decided to play this, which is not good. I mean, it's just a move you play because you see there's a pin, and you're like, ha ha ha, I can play this move. You never saw that one coming. But it's not a good move, because why are you doing that? I just get to centralize my king even more, and now your rook is hanging. So you have to move it again, right? You would have been better off just playing like king f2, centralizing your own king, or, bishop c2, maybe trying to redouble my pawns that way, or, get the bishop in this way, or something, or, rook here. As I was saying before, I might play rook d6 or knight f8, right? I saw a couple of things, and then you bring the king, right? And this is just obviously better than what he went for, which is this weird tactic that doesn't even do anything, because I just move. And then he attacks my pawn. Oh, no. Okay, I defend the pawn. Oh, he attacks my knight. Oh, no. Okay, so I move the knight. Like, it's a lot of these, like, one move. I don't know what he's doing. Now, here I should have actually played f5. Just blocking the bishop out and also locking the rook in. The rook is in prison, right? He's going to have to try and break out somehow with g4. Does that even work? Then you play like knight f4. And the rook is a bit stuck here, a bit stuck. Then I can play like this and, maybe it takes like that. But then, you start maybe giving a check or taking this with check even, it's... Or there, I guess you have g5 and the knight is very strong. But anyway, none of that happens. Instead, I play the knight here, attacking the rook, and I defend my knight. And the idea here is to create a passed pawn if he'll let me. Nice passer in the center. And I drop my knight back, and I leave him with an isolated pawn here. So I'm going to try and go after that weakness. I play this here, and this is likely, it could be a draw. I'm up 1 pawn, but he's got a very nice bishop. Which kind of keeps my pawns at bay. But my rook is very well placed on the open file. But, then he kicks my knight back and pins me. And, there's some weird stuff going on. Neither of us playing the best. He moves the king. I attack the rook. And I defend my 7th rank here and just move my knight in. Now, though, earlier I said it might be a draw, but as the position unfolds, I think I'm doing better. I mean, obviously I'm up a pawn. I'm going to be better, right? White is going to be defending. But here, I've got my rook patrolling my 7th rank and a very nice knight in the center of the board, going to be causing some havoc, right? So I bring my king, centralize it even more, and now I just start going for these pawns, which apparently wasn't the best approach. I should have played for like f4 right away, or, King f4 is fine, but it says it's a miss because I should be playing like f4. Whatever, computer. I'm not a stockfish. So I play king f4, going after the pawns, and I'm like, I don't see a way for him to defend these pawns, and I'm just going to gobble, right? Like a turkey. Gobble. And then he plays rook e6. That's just not a good move. If you want to draw this game, you got to keep the rooks on the board, right? So you can create some counterplay and defend a bit better. But yeah, rook e6, and that just allows me to trade off the rooks, and now I defend my pawn, expecting the king to march in. Now I'm just up 2 pawns, and I'm going to be winning this h-pawn. Now, apparently, this is bad. I should have played knight b5 check first, and then played f4, try and, like, take somehow and push this way, you know, a4, knight c3, a5, knight d1, and you could go for something like this. But, you know, I had under a minute. So I was like, me take pawn. Me be up 2 pawns. Very nice, very nice. So the king jumps in. Okay, cool. We're going to stay over here. Now the knight has to stay over on this side of the board because there's some danger, right? Danger, danger. If the king walks in and takes the pawns, then he's got his outside passers of his own, and my pawn might not be able to make it because the light squared bishop is going to be stopping me in time. So I have to keep the knight over here. Now it is tricky. I give up this pawn. I'm up 1 pawn. But I figure I'm going to win this or maybe create a passer that way. And that's what happens. I take the pawn on a3, and then I push, and I get a passer. So now I should be winning. I've got a pass pawn, and he's going to win my pawns over here, but I'm going to sack the knight at some point, and make him sack the... It's a bit complicated. There's always a threat of a draw, because with knights and bishops, if it's a knight against a king or a bishop against a king, that's just a draw if there's no pawns on the board. And if it's, I have a knight, but he has a pawn, it's probably still a draw because I just sacrificed the knight for the pawn, right? And vice versa, any combination, of that. Now here I missed the key idea to win this endgame. He moves the king, and I should play already like king f2, trying to bring the king this way, or even like king g3, right? Trying to play this and push my pawn. He can take, of course, and then I play b5. That is the key idea. b5, defending the pawn this way so that the king can never take it. And the bishop can't wander too far or sacrifice because I got my own pawn going this way. So the bishop has to keep an eye on my pawn. Here, bishop d7 could be played. King f4, king b6, and I just push. You've got to take, because otherwise the pawn just goes through. I mean, you can try this, stopping me this way, but I'm going to play king e3, king f2, and push. Eventually, you're going to have to give up the bishop for the pawn, and then the king can't take this ever. And if the king tries to run this way, well, it's just going to be too slow, because eventually, I'm going to be able to bring my own king back and also, play this at some point. It's just not going to work. Now, I didn't see that. Instead, I went here and here. I still have time to play this. Not here. I still have time to play this and create this defensive stance. And then, bring my king and march the pawn. I still have time for that. But I wasn't aware of that endgame idea with knights and pawns. Like, I wasn't aware of, like, the knight hiding behind the pawn to defend. But, if I see it in the future, I'll know. So, instead, I jump my knight in, thinking I can defend this way. But this isn't as good because the king gets to chase the knight around and constantly threaten to take, instead of the knight being behind where the king can't reach. That was the idea. But, the king marches in. I find a way. He gives up the bishop. I take. And now it's just a pawn race where we both end up with the queen. And it's just a draw. Because, I played a few moves just, in case he decided to be stupid and go here, because then you're winning. But he didn't fall for that, of course. And that's the game. So if you made it to the end of the video, thank you as always. Make sure to participate with the daily puzzle I showed at the beginning. Give you a shout out in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. All right. Have a great rest of your day, guys.